You are people listening from every corner of this planet. No knowledge has been dispersed so beautifully, so balanced across the planet, on this planet ever. Maybe in the universe. You have the full potential of achieving everything in the universe. There is no need and there is no reason for man not to achieve. So, wherever you are, the way I taught you to make the coils double fall inside, you have continuous equal gravitational magnetic fields, and if you put CO2 on it, and you put zinc on it, you have connected the emotion of the man to it on a stable condition, and you'll find out you become a very peaceful man. Here, instead of having galaxies and universes and creating connection magnetically, we have used the matter state gravitational magnetic field strength to dominate and dictate the shape of the plasma. The nanotechnology, the nanomaterial which you have collectively developed in different ways, by caustic, by electric currents, by whatever, fire or whatever, has that advantage that the matter, the nano and the plasma is all the same. So connection is very solid, it's very strong. The power of the plasma technology, the way we have thought, is beyond imagination of the man. Now you can create and control the plasma, which is the mother of the creation of the universe. You are given the seed of the essence of the creation. The foundation does not belong to no one and is not made of one anymore. You are developing it, you are structuring it, and from today we will be still the same. We'll still develop the technology in different names, in different colors, in different nationalities which they do not exist. It is beautiful when we see the Christian, the Muslims, the Jews, and every other belief are working together to build up systems. We have already become one faith. We already have become one nation, and we already become one planet. You got to remember one thing. Dates is irrelevant. Today is the last day of the Christian calendar, or tomorrow is the beginning of another. One day is connected to another. We don't stop. We are working round the clock. The Keshe Foundation team is working irrespective of time, position, religion, country. And now we achieve what we set out for.
Sorry, Vince, are we going to play the second video as well? All right. Yes, thank you.
You're invited to partake in the creation of humanity's first Universal Community Council on April 21st and 22nd, 2016 in Dubai at the One Planet, One Nation, One Race Conference. World leaders and prominent business persons have been invited to attend. However, representatives of the council will be selected irrespective of language, race, creed, or position in life. The council will have many responsibilities. It will support the people of humanity and their governments. It will help bring balance across the globe and unite humanity for the benefit of all mankind. It will act as a bridge between humanity and the universal community. The cost of admission to the conference is €750, which includes one seat in the main conference room and 3-night stay in one of Dubai's prestigious hotels, 2 persons per room. Discount airfares are also available. The One Planet, One Nation, One Race Conference. You're invited. We hope to see you there.
Welcome, everyone, to the 12th International Cash Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Tuesday, April 5th, 2016. And once again, we're here with Mr. Kesh of the Kesh Foundation, and he'll be speaking on various issues that affect the international scene with the Kesh technology. And we have a couple of testimonials and other things to show as well. So we'll begin the show with Mr. Kesh as usual. I think he's available in, I see we're tuning into his channel there now, to his video. Can we hear you, Mr. Kesh? Hello.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, as usual, whenever and wherever you listen to these teachings. As is our tradition on Tuesdays, we start with application, usually of the health, but we listen to what other nationals and countries have developed for us to learn from. I know there is a couple of entries of what we've seen, especially about the MAGRA systems. And if we can show that first, please, and then we carry on. Do you have it available?
Yes. Yes, I've got the, well, let me put it up on the screen share here. Let's see. Okay, do it this way. Okay, this is a site regarding the Kesh Home Power Unit testing in Sweden. I can read what it says here. As we can see, this page is dedicated published testing results done on the Power Home Unit bought from the Kesh Foundation web shop. Delivery time is January 8th, 2016. First time connect was done 10th of January. Being lazy, I use this page within another project scope. So the many items you see here has nothing at all to do with Kesh, and we're all Swedish. For Kesh interest, just disregard that info. And it talks about how you have to download and so on through the stream. You need to download to disk first, he says, since his storage site doesn't have the capacity to do streaming. So basically, there's a link here for the PDF that we can have a look at, and there's a link for the starting up of the unit, and there's an updated link of it running at the bottom here. So maybe we can have a look at that PDF. Okay. Make sure we're sharing that correctly. Can you see that on the Zoom sharing okay? Or is that what? Yeah, just gonna, there it is. And okay, there we go. So, no, sorry, that's, I have to bring up the other one here just a minute. Okay, there we go. We'll do it this way then. Okay, so this is a folder, PDF, that talks about the test site description. Testing is done in a small house with very limited house wire grid. From the central grid connection meter housing, there's 2 wall sockets. Just a 2-meter standard house wire to each socket. And each socket has a 220 volt 10 amp fusing for a total of 2200 watts from each socket. Use one of these 2 sockets for test of the power unit. And it shows the setup there as he's outlined in the description. Okay, so after doing a 21-day conditioning with this setup, maybe the next step will be to do the same thing on the other wall socket. We'll have to ask advice from other users before this decision. From the wall socket, we connect to a simple volt amp watt meter. Then from there to the load sockets, 5 sockets on the input side of the power unit. So we see those 5 sockets here, and we see the 3 load sockets. The Swedish standard where you can connect any load plug 2 ways, 180 degrees turned, I see no way to determine any live plug for devices connected as load. So for this issue, we just make sure to record the orientation for any new load and make sure it will always be connected with that same orientation anytime you disconnect or connect a given load to the system. Okay, that's it for that PDF, and we can go back to, let's look at the updated video here. And here we see comments and facts in chronological order as the testing progresses. So he's got the dates, the added non-resistive load, the added resistive load, the total load, and the watt meter from the grid and kilowatt hours as columns here. That's all the data up till April 2nd, and with notes for each step of the conditioning process. So he's been quite particular about what he puts on and how the load goes on for each day. We won't go through all the details, but we can go toward the end here. Well, we can see that, well, he does mention here this example of 81.5 kilowatt hours. Energy reduction is calculated based on the permanent load of 87 kilowatt hours. And seems like the energy savings kind of stays like 7% average these last 2 weeks. Did a little happy testing, mostly fun testing a certified tester likes to do. I used my second watt meter and connected it straight to the heat fan on the output side. It gave me 400 watts. Compared to the 428 watts we had as consumption for this fan. So it gives you also a 7% gain. Then I used the same meter and connected the heat fan to the off test fuse line. That also gives me 400 watts. So for anyone wanting to disprove the tech, the conclusion, of course, is no energy gain at all. For someone wanting to see the tech works, the conclusion is the heat fan got conditioned for less power consumption, also when connected to the off test fuse line. I'm just testing. You choose yourself what to believe. I won't believe either way until testing is finished. And then in March 4th, he has a 9% meter reduction, a 7% energy meter reduction, and a 21% electric bill reduction. Shows watt usage 472, energy usage 74.5 kilowatt hours. So the energy reduction is calculated based on the permanent load of 137 kilowatt hours, and he makes a calculation of the 127 over the 137 to get 0.07. And the reduction based on the watt meter is similar formula. And the electric bill, it says the theoretical watt usage during February is 29 days of 518 watt load plus 1 day with an additional 1170 watt. 518 and 1170 watt is what we measured at the beginning of the testing as the watt consumptions of loads when connected to that off test phase, which is 388 kilowatt hours. Electric bill is 305, so he sees the reduction as 21%. And he has some speculations as to why there's a big difference between the electric bill and the watt meter calculations. He thinks that the plasma flow might be affecting the watt meter in some way, so the readings are not what is taken from the grid. And so on. He has a couple of suggestions or ideas about why there's a difference in that reduction. And moves on to March 20th. Let's move along through this perhaps. There is some changes along the way. Let's look at the beginning of April. Okay, so April 2nd, he has a watt meter reduction of 12% and electric bill reduction of 37%. And he talks about how that was shows how that was calculated. He says he concludes the boost from 21% to 37% savings is probably due to the 1320 watt load, which is now on the input, really gets the benefit from the 518 watt load on the output. He speculates that running a full month with this load will get toward a 50% savings. He says it's pretty clear now the watt meter readings are not good for evaluating savings, just like the Kesh guy said from the beginning. A little smiley. And the next step, he says, we'll just connect the mag grav to the second phase and get the nano coating going on in those wires. The watt meter is taken out of scope. It will just be the electric bill to monitor the savings. And that's the end of that commentary.
Well, he's done step by step as is on the old manual. The new system, which is the second generation, you just connect the load up to 500 watts at your box, the blue system, and you connect it, plug into the main, and that's all you need to do. And we have tested this in Emirates, and it works very, very fast and very fine. You start seeing reduction directly from the first day.
And then how quickly can you load it up with the full load after you start off with 500 for a couple of weeks?
You don't need, you load up with 500 to start the system. And after 30, 60 days, you bring your load down to 200 watts. You don't need to go any further. The system is, what do you call it, self-setting. The new configuration, you don't need to add any more load or reduce any more load. To start with, you put a 500 watt on, and then after 30 days, 60 days, you reduce it to 150, 200 watts. But you set in the house and you start seeing the saving.
Oh, okay.
sorry about that. Just let me tell you something. We have confirmation from the Chinese group. The Chinese in the group in China has managed to achieve 80% reduction over the testing time. We just received the information this morning. So one of the groups in China running their system now achieved 80% reduction on the electricity bill. So as you let the system go further, it works more efficient and you use the system directly. You got to remember three things: that your power supply provides a DC with a balance on the plasma DC, not on a electron vibration DC. And you have the possibility of using the system as an adapter for any electric system, be it 210, 220 or 110, 120 voltage. The good thing is we're getting more and more people in the coming week, next couple of weeks. The Keshe Foundation, from the sales point of view, will send the application form, a form to all the people who bought the system to give us an update, what they've seen, what reduction they've seen. So we start to piling in the information for actual bills of the houses, people who bought the units and installed the units in their houses. There's over 1,000 plus, which we can call upon to start gathering data. Then over 1,000 units, we look at the, what do you call, the data, the balance data. How much they saved in the first month, how much they saved the second month. At the moment, we are looking at a setup which Giovanni has done in his house. He's like many people at the moment with sunroof, what do you call it, solar cells on the roof as a power supply, because solar cells supply the energy during the daytime. It becomes mainly your supplier. But at nighttime, your meter on the wall, which comes from the electricity board, is your supplier. What we have seen from the test, he started the test at night. So in the first hour, I think you saw 12% something reduction. And in the first 12 hours, we saw around 20 plus reduction. But then when the data came in and the solar cells became supplier, the energy saving dropped to 7 to 8%. And this carries on about the same. Am I correct? Everyone is here. It's just about the same. And now what it does, the system is now coating the solar cells at the moment. So you get a different reading nighttime when you get your supply, but your system now has found a way to feed. So we want to see how long will go before the whole solar cells are nano coated, and then what figures of production we see, because when this happens, is not just to see the reduction in the electricity bill, but is to see the increase in the solar cells supply into the grid during the daytime. Because you have records of past months, years, you've been putting electricity in the grid. Now that the plasma is nano coating your solar cells, now you can see if it becomes more efficient, if you're supplying more. So in a way, you're earning more money out of your system. You understand? This is what we got to look for. Yeah. So it's not just looking at the reduction at night, but seeing the increase in your supply into the grid as a solar, because you have a license. This when they sold you the cell, the panels, is for you to become a supplier. But now you're going to see if you were supplying, let's say, 3 kilowatt a day during the certain hours, if compared, because it's very hard to make a comparison because some days are not the same as last year, but you're going to see if your supply into the grid goes higher, which means now your nano coating becomes more efficient in the solar cells, so you earn more money with what you supply. So you become a more efficient supplier. So we're looking at two sides, not what reduction you get, yeah, but if the day wattage supply has gone up, which compensates two ways. So not only you get a reduction, but you're getting more pay from the, what do you call it, the electricity board for putting more energy in. This is a very good test because this gives us a very good opportunity to be able to make solar cells farms more efficient. Here in this site, we have a huge farm, solar cell farm just outside. So we can add to the system and see you produce more than you are. So these kind of things we see, this is exactly what we said from the beginning. But as I said, the proof of the pudding is in eating it, and now we see the results are coming back. The pudding is very delicious. If you're paying €1,000 per month electricity bill, and you save yourself €370, is not bad. Especially for some houses, even if you bring that to €1,000 a year electricity bill, 370 electricity bill is quite a bit. So it makes a difference. This is more or less what we've seen in line in Middle East in our testing in Abu Dhabi, and new systems are coming up as we send more systems across the, what do you call it, mass production position. So it is those of people who went out to destroy the, what do you call it, the work of the magnet systems because it was beneficial to them. Now they've seen is exactly opposite what they were preaching. This is our job, to put the system in work, to put the system to show. It takes time to break through new technologies. In the past, there was one man, maybe he sold a few pieces here and there and disappeared. This time is the whole of the human race. We work as one team, we're putting it out. And don't forget, there are thousands and thousands of units made by people themselves, which we don't know. They build their own system in their houses. Housewives have built their own systems. In Africa, we know they are building their own systems every day. So this has two-way cut. This, a lot of people haven't realized. As we go into mass production, as we go into further mass production, as more people are more add to their system, the bill energy saving is one side of it. The other side of it is what we do not need to destroy. What we do not need, showing something else on the thing, what we do not need to actually build to destroy more, to have more energy. I did a calculation for a government very recently. If you put in 10% of the people's houses the maglev units, or increase it to 20 to 25% in the next 12 months, 2 years, if we can meet the demand to produce, there is a number of power stations which does not need to be built that puts the government and the nation into debt. This is the biggest saving. The saving doesn't come. Governments like United Arab Emirates governments are considering nuclear power stations, even though they are petroleum countries. But you commission a nuclear power station, and then you spend billions and billions in decommissioning it. We don't have the technology to decommission. So every power station we reduce by not being built, not only we don't add to the, what do you call it, the poisoning of the air, we don't take more out of the earth to burn, we don't put the nation on the death. The debts of the countries comes from huge industrial investments. Power stations are one of the biggest burdens financially on any nation. So if we can promote this ethos that more and more people start making more efficient use of plasma, now then we'll see Not only we save on energy, we save on electricity bill. Not only the nation saves on importing fuel, but the nation saves money in investing to build power stations. This is the bigger problem than anybody can think. Because at the moment, even in Italy, they charge you for electricity, as Giovanni was telling me, for what you use, plus they charge you a fix for power stations. In England, they charge you for line usage, the companies which create the power lines. These all disappears. These all literally become irrelevant because now we don't produce these wastage. We don't produce these power stations to have these kind of burdens. As I said, the European nations, a number of them have started looking at the Keshe Foundation power supply very closely in past month or two, because the results confirm the correctness. And does it need to build and plan new power stations to borrow huge on the back of the nation to repay debts when the energy consumption drops? We are in talk in a way to bring the Maghreb unit as part of the compulsory purchase by government for any electricity usage. The biggest problem we're going to have in the coming months is being able to meet the demand. This is the biggest problem. Can we meet the demand, or can we produce something different, slightly, very much more effective, much more simpler to make, that it can become mass production? Much easier. So our problem is not when we release the blueprint in October and November in the conferences and then here. The problem now is changing how the governments will react in understanding the extra finances which is available to them by not importing. I was explaining this in a very nutshell to Giovanni this morning. Governments like Italian government, in promoting a system which actually brings a hybrid house power unit, is more or less a blessing for nations which are fuel importers. What does it mean? Up to now you had a hybrid. You had a hybrid car which was fuel and electric car. You had a hybrid between a fuel and a gas tank. These units are hybrids for the house unit. So they give you a possibility of the use of electricity from the main, and at the same time support and deliver the plasma energy. In the coming time, as we go further and further, as we've seen in London and now we hear from China, the reduction will go more and more towards the power supply, more towards the Maghreb system supplying most of the power. So as we've seen in London and a few other places, especially in Africa, the change is so rapid that we've seen the bills from 5,000 local currency to 100 in less than 2 months, which is more or less zero. And that makes a huge difference in African nations. So with one power generator unit, a power station, now they can supply hundreds and thousands of houses more without investing and putting the country under the burden of the financial burden of borrowing money from big international organizations, because a power station is not 1,000 or 10,000 or 10 million. Power stations total from beginning to the end to become a line can cost up to 100, 200 million. And this is the debt you pay at the rate of, at the moment, 8% back to just for it. In many countries, the power station is already obsolete, but the nation is still paying the debts on the interest of the power station. This is why they keep on going. This is one of the reasons nuclear power stations, even dangerous, are overrun, and they still run after a long time when they were supposed to be decommissioned, because 99.99% the government has not recuperated the money which they spend in the structure. Secondly, they have not got the money to decommission. The commissioning of the nuclear power stations, especially in the West, is going to be the biggest burden, as we know from the British decommissioning centers of the gas-cooled power reactors which were built in the 70s. So this is not anymore iffy. We are not looking if the power system saves 30%, 20%, 50%, 100%. Now we know for a fact the savings are there as a new energy, alternative energy support. And now we look at what this hybrid system in the house can bring into the financial assets of the nation. We will discuss this with a number of world leaders in the meetings which are set up in the coming months, and they are very rapidly grasping the idea, because this is not, it's the first time we are not looking at the saving of a man in his house. We are looking at the saving for the nation, not to put the nation under further more burdens. If we can deliver enough power units in the right way to the countries like, as we said, China, it saves huge amount of money for a huge number of parts of the organization, government organization, which they can in turn return back into other works. You got to realize in the nations like China, there are huge amount of coal mining goes to support the energy supply. And every year, some 10,000 miners die in accidents. This is official data from the government. Sometimes up to 10,000 people in different accidents in the mining section, especially for power supply, happens. So the benefit with changing, not just with what we bring in, any other organization which can deliver like us an alternative in saving, it means a life saved, a nation kept out of debt. And this is what we said. We bring these conditions, we bring these changes. You see on the thing, it says very easy. Give peace another chance. March 31st, 46.7% saving in electricity. And then it goes on at the end. Shalom. It means we are even touched the nation of Israel. This is what we said. You can read it on the screen. So it doesn't go by race, by creed, by religion. It touches everyone. And this is a real true response, what we see here. Do we need to change, or do we need to be more active in delivering these systems that allows not needing to fight for energy supply, gives the peace a chance? Because most of the wars now is based on war for water supply, for energy supply, shortage of water. And now we've seen, and in the coming weeks we'll show new water systems where even what we showed last week, and it can be shown in the coming time, energy saving, water saving is the backbone of the second nature. Just because I come here just to start teaching. I was talking to a gentleman in Middle East, and when I explained to him, you don't need much water, and you do not need to worry so much with how you can grow food in the desert with little amount of water, which we're going to show in the coming time in United Arab Emirates, then you see the change comes in. In Africa, no one needs to die of hunger because of the water shortage, because whatever the water is there will be enough to grow material because you absorb the energy. We saw with the report in Australia last week. We see other results which are coming up from around the world, and they show that the water consumption drops sometimes up to 80%. That 80% not having water is a big change. If you know or not, go back into the history of the agriculture. As a lot of you know, Argentina went bankrupt in early 2000. They could not afford to pay their national debt. And up came, after 3-4 years, they just paid all their debts which they borrowed from the World Bank in one go. And nobody knew how suddenly Argentina managed to pull such a debt payback. It was very easy. China needs water. China needs soil, land to grow soya, to feed the nation. They don't have a rainfall. Now, they pay the Argentinians ahead for a crop, and the Argentinians pay their debts, and both benefit. One got the supply of the rainwater of Argentina, and one got the debts paid to the national bank, just because of lack of water. Now, if with our trip to China, we can show that one of the biggest deserts which is moving on Beijing, because if you're not aware of it, you don't know, there is a huge desert outside Beijing, not hundreds of kilometers, not very far, which is moving towards Beijing. If we can convert these deserts into literally farms or agricultural points to stop the motion of the desert, we might be able to use the position to the advantage of the Chinese people, that we start growing things on the desert. Don't forget, this is not a dream. The Israelis, after capturing the Sinai Desert in the Six-Day War, they set out to reverse the condition. All they did, you remember the Jaffa oranges suddenly appeared everywhere so much? Go back on the history. The Israelis planted trees, which they put a tarmac on the sand of the desert, they put the soil on, they planted Jaffa trees. They've grown trees in the middle of the desert. So it's not something we haven't done. Now instead of the tarmac, we have the CO2 and everything else to go with it. That we allow the desert to become the source of the water itself. This will change a lot of things. This is part of the structure which no nation can deny what this technology has brought, and no nation can deny when its own citizens are producing the material. It's not something imported from outside. The technology is getting built by every man in the nation somewhere that they can show to their governments this is what it does. So, as we said, it's not one country, one people, it's one nation, one planet. And all of us are participating in this change. And this is the beauty of it. The more data we see, the more we understand. I have to warn you about something very, very important. We've received reports on meetings which is happening around Europe, set up by the people who are using the Cash Foundation name and like the what they call Maghreb systems to bring people into lectures, and then trying to demote and promote their own technologies. In a way, we've seen one in Germany in the last weekend. We are aware of what's going on and about the organizers, how it's organized. These are good. These are not bad. I received a little note from the people who gave a talk. We came back with 250 new recruits or people who follow us, where the actual intention was to promote another product for the energy in Germany. But it's good that we can compete to be correct, and we allow other technologies to come along with us, as long as they don't put one down to benefit the other. Do not let the name of the foundation and the products of the foundation to be used for abusing people with the other systems which is in the market. If they are good, we support them. If they are not, they are trying to use the Cash Foundation name, as we've seen in the last weekend in Germany. This should stop. At least our people should be very understanding of these things which is going on. We go back to something which is very important. In the couple of weeks ago, we showed a report from Japan, from Fukushima. We have taken this step further and we can disclose something more to you. The lotion, which is made in Japan in a specific way by the name of the Keshe Foundation, this lotion has been tested specifically for human use and on mice. It's paid by the Keshe Foundation Japan for testing, and we have received the results today. This is the official results from the test which is done by the new lotion. This is not a CO2 that you can use directly. This is done in a specific way, and it goes on the Keshe Foundation lotion products as of next week. Yes, this is specifically done in a specific way, and it has shown by the direct use on the skin, you receive no toxicity. So it's not toxic, it does not create any side effect. And this is the official report, which the test was finished around December, and we received the results this morning. So not only TEPCO has shown that there is no toxicity, now the mice and the human test in Japan has confirmed further. But we have to look the next step with this lotion, which we will go out directly in the next couple of weeks for sale at the Keshe Foundation website. This lotion is getting tested and being tested for the skin cancer. The results are promising. The results, all we can tell you, is very promising, and we will release more data that the direct use of the new structure lotion which is done can change or affect skin cancer. What we're going to do, we're going to run the way we left out the blueprint of blue MATLAB boxes. We'll leave public to submit their testimonial. So instead of going to FDA, instead of going to all the structures which is set up to stop new technologies to come out which work, and a new way to block that multi-conglomerates can dictate the condition, we as Keshe Foundation release our own products and we leave it for the world testimonial for you to test and report back. And this way we collect a clean and full data on the products, on what we produce. You want to use it on your animals, you want to use it on anything or yourself because you have a cancer and there is no return of condition, please do so. There is a closure on the website of the Keshe Foundation. These products are submitted for trials, which means you accept when you purchase to try it and report back. So we do what we call human trials by all of us, not dictated by the conditions which come back. If you are in a condition that you have a skin cancer or blood cancer, or you've been irradiated, or you received a high dosage of chemotherapy or radiation, these products from next week are available according to your decision. You make a decision if you want to do it, and if you want to enter humanity trial condition. We offer it to FDA, we offer it to health authorities around the world. The supply is a natural product, is like a supplement, is nothing added to or manufactured in any shape or form, but its composition is in the way that it can do what was expected in changes. So what we want to do is, a lot of you have been complaining about like skin cancer. Can you help us with this? Or with eczema, or with other skin conditions. This solution is there that we will put a form on your order you accept to be part of the trial, worldwide trial. So we collect data totally. When you use it, you come back and you put the data in, what happened, what condition you received, and how it changed. And then we would like you to have a report from a doctor, or at least get your doctor to monitor when you're using the product. We put it very clearly that these products are for trial. So you know you're entering a trial. Instead of us going and paying millions of dollars to a company to find a certain specific people with a certain specific condition to bring in as guinea pig, we all become guinea pigs of the world population if we want to make the difference. The only thing is why we took the step is that the clinical trials on animals shows no toxicity. The clinical trial by TEPCO, by animals consuming the material, shows no toxicity because GAN's CO2 is part of the structure of your body. It cannot create toxication at a certain small amount of dosage. So what we're going to do in the coming weeks is to release a worldwide human trial for the new products. So we've seen this with TEPCO. This is the report from TEPCO, which is on. As I said, we are in contact and communication with a number of atomic energy authorities around the world to take up the challenge, to test this material on mice and then human beings, because if you work in the world of radiation, if you are in pain, where do you go? If you break a bone, where do you go? Most of you, when you damage a bone, you break a bone, which millions of us do every year, where do we go? Where is the first port of call for broken bone? We go to the hospital. The first thing they tell you if you've broken a bone or not is through X-ray. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people every day go to hospitals, and it's become very common for us. We just walk in and ask for an X-ray. But one thing which none of you ever think, you go in and now there is a complaint when you do too many CT scans or when you do too many X-rays, you get too much radiation. But stand still for a second. You are abusers. You people, us, all of us, we have abused one thing. If taking 1 or 2 or 10 pictures irradiates us and is dangerous to us, ask for the life of the man as a radiotherapist or the nurse in the radiography in the hospital, which takes hundreds of pictures every day. The radiation does not go through the machine, all of it, or through your body. It stays in the room, reflects back in the room. We have had up to now no way to give and save the life of radiologists. I was born in this field. First thing brought me into this technology was X-ray machines, where I lay at the age of 8, 9, and the one I thought, if this ray can go through, everything can go through me, so I wanted to know how it does it. But what I've seen over years, diseases which the radiologists absorb out of the radiation, which they help you. Maybe for the first time, we can give our people who save our lives, let them take a dosage of this material once a month. Wash out any radiation out of their body while they were helping you. This is what I said. Abuse has become so common that we forgot how we abuse things. The radiologist and nurse takes you and puts you on the bed for you to see your broken bone that you can heal. The man who helps with the x-rays or whatever to detect the cancer, which might save your life. But every time that machine goes click, it absorbs part of the radiation. Maybe for the first time, if you are in the medical world, offer these liquids to the doctors and let them clean themselves out of radiation. We know it works. TEPCO has confirmed to us it reduces radiation in the body of the man. This is one of the first open uses. We will offer these to all the hospitals around the world. If you have contact with anyone, we will offer this to Philips and Siemens International on the medical side, because they are one of the most advanced medical X-ray systems in the world. They have General Electric as another one. Toshiba produces a lot of X-ray machines. So why not we approach them that for every man who works in radiology, every nurse who puts you on the bed for you to reduce your pain, they put themselves in danger, that for the first time we give them a chance. You have not seen the side effect of the nurses after 20 years, 15 years working in radiology or labs or radiology sections of the hospitals. I have. Shaking of hand, breakdown of the nerves, blood cancer, and everything else. I was brought up and bred in the world of X-ray, and I've seen every misery which comes with the X-ray. While you're happy you took an X-ray, you found out you have a broken bone, you took somebody's bit of life. Now maybe it's time for us to put back in where we took as granted. As I said, this has become a habit of a man to take, and he thinks it is right to take, where in fact, the same doctor, the same nurse who helped you to find your broken bone as children, as life, and with wasting their life in helping you, you had no value for it. Maybe you understand an insight into how abuse has become so much that we do not even want to understand. So the Keshe Foundation, on this side of the fence, nothing to do with energy. On the health side, we are going directly in public domain for testing our products. We were strong enough to put the Maglev units, and we stood a lot of criticism, and the ones who wanted to serve the clandestine activities of their nations, putting all the websites and all the crank and crooks. And now we see we don't fight. We just produce documents, people put things out, and now we see we stand straight and strong. We do the same thing with the lotion and the eye drops and materials which we ask you to help to support, and then report back in. We put the testimonials for the eye drops, for the lotion in the next couple of weeks. There's a few legal papers we have to put on our website, and once we have a full blueprint that it works and how it works, like the blueprint, we release it internationally. All the Keshe Foundation manufacturers will be able to produce it as everything else. So we have to look and we have to be correct in delivery of technology. And now we see, after 2 years of teaching and slowly commercializing and bringing everything out in past 6 months, 8 months, especially when we started with the pads, now we see the testimonials. Would you like to read some of it, Rick?
Sure, Mr. Keshe, just a second here.
You put them up, now you're gonna read them.
Okay, well,
I didn't. You were clever bringing things up. You better should read it.
I gotta show pictures instead of words.
Read the lines, read the small ones, the big one. Read that one. What is this?
Well, yeah, this is interesting. A CO2 pad miracle, it says, by Alper. from California. We have just survived the impossible car accident. A car hit us by flipping and gaining velocity on our mountain road. I pulled the driver out. I have a first aid certificate from an upside down car, gave her first checkup, and she was, and us, miraculously okay, just a couple of scratches. I have my packed CO2 pad all the time with me. The other car driver, the lady in her Mercedes, was unconscious and not drunk, I don't think. Haven't smelled anything. I've survived many other accidents. This time I really have thought that was it, just a couple of hours ago. I used the pad on her. I rubbed the pad gently on her cheeks. On both ways, the road was stopped. You know how it is in the USA. We're being recorded every second. I hope we can see it on somewhere. I rubbed it on her face by saying, love you are okay, just wake up. She gained consciousness after that, and I continued being lovely. She was very confused at that moment. I said to her, we survived, and she smiled at me. I've asked people to help. Nobody came out of the car. I've thought both cars are going to blow up. Local sheriff department was so fast to respond. He is in 1 in a million, gave us a lift, very friendly. Fire department, ambulance service, they were great. I cracked them up softly. We end up laughing and making jokes. This is not a clear message to me. Me and my wife had some issues. Well, I've had many issues, a lot of thinking, which I was taking them too so seriously. None of them matters now. This was hopefully my last dramatic lesson. None of that matters but peace. I'm doing everything to come to Dubai. It's just nothing but peace. And I'm going to see you and be very pleasant, but maybe I can't stop myself to hug you. Raymond is such an inspiration. I admire him. I felt like a hero today. He needs to know, please, and I'm going to let him know as well, of course. So it's an example of how these products are not just products, but they can actually change people's life when they use them, it seems. Here's a person that used a CO2 pad to pull toxins from their dog. I guess we can read that. It seems interesting. My sweet little dog is a scavenger and dug up an aluminum pie plate from under the snow and carried it home to play. Unfortunately, I forgot to retrieve it from her. She did not play later in the day and went to bed early. This morning when I awoke, she was on the bed looking miserable, sad, spiky hair, and lethargic. As she yawned, I noticed her tongue and gums were bright, flaming red, as well as her ears. I immediately got my new CO2 pad, a paper towel with CO2 water sprinkled on it, and inserted into a plastic Ziploc bag. I petted and massaged her with it. And as she rolled over around, loving it, her head, her ears, her back and belly all over. After 5 minutes, she got up and wanted to play. I was tossing her toys and she was happily running around. I noticed her tongue and gums were still red, but she was happy. After another 10 or 15 minutes, I was getting her prepared for her walk. Noticed her tongue, mouth, and ears were no longer red, but the natural flesh color again. Amazingly simple and effective solutions with Kesh technology. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. And that was from Maddie Gregory from looks like Massachusetts in the USA. I'll keep going on here if that's okay, Mr. Kesh.
It's your idea. You came up with it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's do it. It's really amazing. These are all people from different. These are different people from different places. In this case, again, it's the U.S. and Missouri, and I believe that these people don't even know each other. This is about using health patches from GANs I made. Put my microphone in. So, there we go. Okay, it goes. I had residual pains and by now many arthritic deposits on my right shoulder. Accident and surgery 9 years ago. Having recently started making several Ganzas and ordering some 4 mil 4x6 plastic bags, I used one by adding a large unbleached coffee filter, doubling it over, put it in the pouch, and then put a small amount of CO2 GANs and zinc GANs into it. The bag was still flat. Put it inside a quart Ziploc bag to ensure no leaks, and stuffed it all into a sock. I put this health pouch under my right shoulder. It was instantly cooling and relaxing, and then started warming up. I was so calmed by this that I felt almost instantly asleep. 2 hours later, I woke up and stretched my right arm, and there's no restrictions to any movement in my right shoulder, with maybe 14 or more bones and tendons seemed to move back into place all around my shoulder area and makes popping sounds. 9 years and now no pain in my shoulder area, and it is freely moving in every direction. Just incredible. Thanks to you, Mr. Kesh, for this application of our new technology and for the understanding of what had occurred. He had mentioned during one of the lectures that there could be a conversion of the calcium deposits to potassium, and that the body could then use or remove the deposits. From my experiential observance of what happened for me, that perfectly answered what I am now living the result of. Amazing. No more popping sounds or feelings in my right shoulder. Total freedom of movement and now pain. Perfect. Thank you for this amazing improvement to my health and well-being. Ray. I mean, it's almost unbelievable, but yet it keeps going on. Here's another one.
If you will stop, I can read some more later on.
Okay.
On Thursday, we will show you a new but simple application for the health use of the what I call plasma systems. As I said in the teaching of Thursday, I have found the unit which allows tumors to just drop off the body. I brought it with me here. It's in the building. On Thursday we show. And then on Thursday we show you a new system that you can produce yourself at home to tackle cancer or any other pain very rapidly. You all know it, but in seeing it, it brings home the usage, how easy it will be. This is the unit we use for a cancer reduction pain in Abu Dhabi, in the Emirates, with the cancer patients. And speak with about the patches on the cancer. We will release more information on this by Thursday too. The actual data, hopefully if you receive it, that you can have to use for all kinds of deep cancer and light cancer usage. We've gone so far and we have touched so many parts of the life of the man that if we stop now, it will be too late because others will carry on with it. So what I've decided, we go full-fledged. We release, we let you test, and collectively we stand the test of time that we will see how it will change our pain. No FDA guy can come and tell you you cannot do, you're going to suffer till I tell you you can use something. You can tell the FDA guy what you're going to do when you get your cancer. You use it yourself in the background that nobody knows. As I told you before, you'll be amazed how we are watched and monitored. As I told you a few years ago, a man with a cancer came to me and he said, "You're the only one I know who can help me." And after making the system, I found out he's one of the heads of security of a nation because he was handling my file. He knew nobody else can save his life. He's the head of national security of major Western countries. And he said to me, "Thanks to what you've done for me, I tell you what the Americans are going to do with you." He gave me a list of Americans sitting in the hotels trying to kill me if I go somewhere. He said, "They're in my country, please don't come." So head of securities, head of national governments, knowing about the foundation work, use us to their advantage. I can even release his name and his signed document because, as you know, we do not touch any health cases without actually a signed document. They want us to build system for them, and they make a donation to the foundation for it. So I can even release the head of one of the governments, one of the Western National Services, Security Services officers, because they get our file. They have to look, the guy's a terrorist, what are we going to do with him? But the more they look, there is no terrorist. The guy gives everything free and other people are doing it with him. Why can he be a terrorist? So now you will see we have come so far that we have to collectively support ourselves for the best of ability. We are not here to damage, we are not here to do anything wrong. The people who came up with the FDA, tell FDA, show me a single system which can stop my skin cancer for me not to die. If you can't give me, it's my right to do what I have to do to save my life. Unless the FDA has become the executioner and the judge. They are there to protect us, but it's become to the point that even if you want to eat a banana, if it has something added to it that you want to sell it in the market, you cannot do it because FDA say for you to sell this banana, you have to have everything else with it because conglomerates can pay 100 million never and get the bonus back in the back of the financial agreements where you can't do. This way, we're not telling you anything else. We just tell you how to produce it and how to use it. And it's your right to reduce your pain. It's your right to become man of a space. All these teachings are for you to become man of a space, to become independent and to become correct in conduct. We'll see how we'll go and how we'll change. Read a couple of more and then we go into teaching.
Okay. We've got pain pen takes away 10 years of knee pain. Healing news here. Heather took a pain pen home yesterday, the one with copper oxide, GANs, and pain away. Not sure what that means. For physical support. Her knees have been hurting for years, maybe 10 years. She rubbed the pen for about 15 minutes around each knee and was relieved of the pain. She says it was like she had a toothache in her knees. They were sore to touch, and now this is gone. Wow, this is phenomenal. We are so excited. It was Heather in Montana. Okay, we have Oscar from Mexico. Says 21 years ago, I lost control of a race boat, and the propeller almost cut my foot off. I lost many bone parts, all uprise and external ankle tendons cut and nerves cut, 8 reconstructive surgeries, and never found a way to get relief for everyday pain. I reject living under pills or drugs. After 20 minutes with the pain pen, I got free. Thanks, Kesh team. Many exclamation marks. So that's quite amazing as well for someone that's been living under pain for 20 years or more, and after 20 minutes getting relief, that is quite incredible. Okay, here's a longer one. I don't know if I want to read that one, but that's this is from Belinda, again from the U.S. I'm getting a lot from the U.S., but Washington State, unrelated to the other people, I believe. And well, we could read it actually. Maybe it's important, Mr. Kesh.
Oh no, you're readers. I'm listening.
Okay, well let's check it out. Maybe it's worthwhile here. So it's from Belinda Dawson from Washington State. She says, "Here's my recent experience and testimonial from using our health device. It doesn't resemble a pen, so for now we call it a device. It's powerful. The configuration of the device is 4 coils, the outside magnetical set closed at the top and the inside gravitational set open. The center rod is split at the top. The CO2 GANs on the tip of the center rod with the quartz crystal point set into the end of the device housing. The outside looks like a blue tube with a crystal at one end. A childhood knee injury had been bothering me. My left knee was weak, painful, and wobbly to walk on. On the 5th of January, soon after we made our first device that included a crystal, I decided it was a good time to relax into the plasma field and work on the issue. First, I floated the device over the palm of my hand and felt a rush and tingling in my feet, an ankle that had been broken years ago, knee, hands, heart area, and brain, where it felt like the left and right hemispheres were merging and in coherence. I often feel this brain coherence from the plasma field. I felt great peace and love. It was a beautiful feeling with energy surging throughout the body. My hands were hot and tingling. My feet felt they were being massaged. The energy field was very strong and palpable. This energy continued for what seemed like about 20 minutes, then subsided. Put the device down to contemplate this extraordinary experience. After about 5 minutes, I picked up the device again, closed my eyes, and went into a meditative state while holding the device to my left injured knee, with the crystal hovering about an inch above my knee. Expect the unexpected. Suddenly, there was a strong burst of electrical energy radiating out from my knee and through my leg. Again, the energy moved through the entire body. In amazement, I stood up with energy still pulsing in my feet. To my amazement, my knee felt very different. It was now strong, not at all weak or wobbly. As I walked and twisted, there was no pain, and the knee felt completely healed. 1.5 hours later, out of curiosity, I again held the device to my palm, then to my left knee again. I felt a generalized field throughout my body, but not nearly as strong as earlier. This was confirmation to me that the plasma field takes what it needs to take and gives what it needs to give, and that it had done its work. I concluded that was enough for the night. I felt absolutely wonderful and renewed throughout body and mind. Went to bed half an hour later and slept the deepest sleep. I awoke after 6 hours. For me, the usual night's sleep is 8 hours or more, broken sleep. I was wide awake, feeling completely renewed and energized, yet also very peaceful. This happened almost 3 weeks ago, and still the knee is strong and pain-free. It feels completely healed and renewed. Even so, I'm continuing to use the device on the knee every evening to ensure that the new memory is embedded into the neurosystem of my body. I use the device every day and find myself with a sense of overall well-being, inner joy, and peace. I also have a growing desire to help and give to others. It's beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. I am indeed grateful and appreciative of all the teachings and the extraordinary potentials you are bringing to all of us and to our planet. Belinda. So again, the knees are turning up here in these testimonials, Mr. Kesh, and old injuries seemingly being healed in a relatively very quick way. It goes on with skin problems from Atanas, Plovdiv. I don't know if that's in, it might be in Ukraine or someone, perhaps in Europe somewhere. My girlfriend just made her self wounds on the skin after treatment with my health pen with the CO2 GANs pack and the copper GANs pack. She does not feel pain in the scars. The treatment was 3 times with 3 to 4 minutes. Usually skin scratches are painful and last longer than now, but with this treatment the pain was gone. She even touches the skin and still no pain. Thank you, Kesh family. Here's another one from Leon Zhang from China. He treats patients with uremia. I give 3 pieces of the GANS pan to a uremia patient. After 4 days later, he told me he got better sleep, more pee, better digestion, and his urine becomes clear from milk-like. So I know he has more to tell about his story with those uremia patients. So we'll probably hear more from him maybe in the next workshop. Okay, well, I mean, it goes on and on here. There's another one for sudden recovery from bone problem. That seems similar to the knee one. This is from Umut in Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia. It's another longer one. Health pen removes the toe pain of a 4-year-old boy from Laura. Health pad helps 9-year-old with growing pains. And
Yes,
so on.
we in past few weeks we know that we've seen them in the case the doctor in Emirates use one of the new pens. Actually, can we have them from downstairs? Nobody has seen them in public. Have we shown them? No, we haven't seen. Can we have them, please? The pen and the pad, which is in the boardroom downstairs. This pen, which is the blue pens, which is manufactured by Cash Foundation, manufacturing in Italy, now is in the market. And they brought a child of young age with a number of teeth growing at the same time out of the gum. So the baby was in a lot of pain because the teeth were growing together. So the doctor decided, why not try it? We've never done, let's see what it does. Within minutes, the child has no pain. Even though the teething, no cries, nothing. So they took the pen home because it released the growth pain and the pain of the teeth growth. We have used the pen for the knee for a long time. It works. It works amazingly. And what it does, you have to understand how it works. In the knee, especially in the knee area, the structure is different. Can I have the, what do you call it? Can I share a screen? If you can give me the whiteboard, please. Oh, why don't I choose this? You have the bone, then you have the muscle tissue, which is part of the whatever, and then you have what are called ligaments, which connects this meat to the bone. Over years, thank you very much. Over the years, I have developed the technology and understanding, and these new pads cover everything. These ligaments totally have a different neurostructure than the rest of the body. They are made and they do not use CO2. So you cannot connect the muscle tissue or use what are called CO tissues so much as you can use CO2 patch. Because somehow these ligaments, these fibers are, if you even look when you cook the meat, the ligaments are totally different texture, different structure. They are very transparent most of the time. They are part of the lymph structure, which they have never become bone, they never become flesh or the muscle. And they seem to be totally the connection between the physicality and emotion. So you find out why these systems, especially when you put a CO2, work better, is because it carries both the emotion and physical structure. Your pens, when you made the coils, when you made your pen, double coils, you have copper inside. So you already carry the physical part with it. When you have, and you produce these caustics, and then you produce the nanomaterial, you always, due to the salt of environment, you carry a minute amount of CO2 with your system. Or you can put the CO2 on it, and you find out the CO2 patches. Even when you made the CO2, you still have some copper oxide mixed in it, because the way you make your CO2 is got a copper plate and a zinc plate, and you don't produce 100%. There's always some CO2 copper oxide in it. So the CO2 patches work perfect for ligaments. If you have, that's why they work perfect for a joint pain, for arthritis. This is because of the way you produce the material. You see it total white, but if you go microscopically in it, you still have the CO2, which is part of the red flash connection. GANs can only attach to itself what it's made of. It cannot, it's a magnet. A magnet of plastic only attracts plastic. The magnet of iron only attracts iron, interacts with iron. But if you look in the structure of the ligaments, on one end, in one end, if you look here, they produce magnetic or attraction of the red muscle. And on the other end, if you look here, they behave and attract matter state bone. So the reason they have this structure, they are multi-magnet condition. Always remember, the body of the man is made of gans, and the ganses are only spheres of plasma. So the plasma of the same can interact. The plasma of, what do you call it? The bone will interact with the bone, and the plasma of the meat will only interact with the meat. So how can the plasma show multi-characteristic? So they carry the full spectrum of the matter state gas condition in a vacuum of the body of the man, and so somewhere in between they change characteristic from being magnet or the magnetic gravitational field strength of the tissue to gravitational magnetic field of the matter state of the gas, which is the bone. So if you learn this, if you understand this, you can learn a lot. You will understand and expand the knowledge in a way by having the same structure. You can change gravitational magnetic fields to create attraction for different things within the same structure. So on one end, the strength is of the strength of the gans, of fibers, of the, what do you call, the muscle. And on the other end, they carry the characteristics of the gravitational magnetic field of the matter bone. But there is a very, very hidden characteristic. Very hidden characteristics. And this hidden characteristic is that, what color can I choose? I'll go for green. It should be green, okay. Edit. It doesn't let me edit. Okay, undo. Edit. Let's do it this way because I can show you. Okay, so what is hidden here is both entities have a skin which is similar to the ligament. The skin, if you get the muscle, if you open a muscle, you see it's got this soft tissue fiber on it, like a sac. Even the bone has that sac. It's got, they call it the skin of the bone. This is where the lymph attaches itself to. This skin, or what you call the sac of any tissue muscle, is a magnetic gravitational filtering of what can go through. Because it's of its structure, if it doesn't belong, it slips on. That's why if you touch it, it's very slippery. So they behave themselves as a filter for the lymph to penetrate. This is the first filter. It's like you have a coffee filter. And for that filtering, they are very slippery, so nothing can attach to them. But the structure at the same time is a harder version of the skin, which become tendons. This is what you see. The connection is with the muscle gravity and the skin, because the structure is very similar to the lymph. That's how they have the magnetic field of both. In fact, it's the same thing, but a higher strength. The body knows how to change according to the strength, the fiber to be harder, to be softer, and how to be more flexible. And the limbs, these ligaments, more or less get fed and constructed out of these skins. It's very much, they get what it looks like, they get produced in the upper parts by the rule body makes, and then as they slip towards the end, they become part of the ligament. So they harden up. It's like a nail. It hardens up. The process we don't fully understand, but in the time I explain how it works. But CO2 and a copper oxide work perfectly, because that sac for the muscle tissue has a filter capacity of a copper oxide and copper, because the neurosystem of the red tissue works through copper. And then, on the other hand, is connected to the skin of the bone, which is the same. If you understand this in so many ways, then you understand why we have cartilages, how the cartilages are even produced, because wherever you find ligament, you find ends up with cartilages. So we see a progression from very soft of the same tissue to connection and the structure of the same in it. So this is important because years ago in part of our research, we came to understand this, that to have stronger cartilages, to be able to reproduce cartilages, you have to strengthen the ligaments. Because ligaments are more or less the same extension of or they create a condition for cartilage to be developed. These are when we come to the health section, I teach more in depth on these things, but you see a multi-use of the same material being able, as it looks, to connect to two different materials, but in fact is connecting to itself, which is sack of the other. And these are important parts when it comes to use of the CO2 patches for specific conditions in bone. You can find out how you can use the systems in a more effective way. The pens are very effective in these kind of conditions, but the patches are more effective in the cartilage side interconnection. As I said, a lot of you haven't seen, but I'll show it to you. If you purchase one you've seen, this is the Keshe Foundation, the pen, which we have now marketed as a few days ago, a few weeks ago. And when you get it, this is the, would you like focus on this, if they can see it? This is the pen, and this is how you get it as a box. This placed, I told you, when it was made, you love to get sick just to use it. It looks well presented. It's a very simple system. It has a C certification, and it works very effectively. As I said, this was used on the child. We just had the sample arrived, and it works immediately for releasing pain, tooth pain, and that kind of thing. Even the infection can change. And then what I explained to you, the other thing is the new pads, which is now made in Italy, is not the ones which we used to manufacture. We started by the company there on the name of the Keshe Foundation, which there was a lot of complaint with it. But now this is the same again. You receive it. It has a seal of the Keshe Foundation products will carry their own seal. Everything is sealed according with the name and the sealage. And what you get is the same again. The new pad is more or less everything is done. It comes with its own instruction, and as usual, it carries its own CE certification because we have received a Class 2 certification for the pad. It's considered a health unit, and all the what is on the back with the CE registration barcode. The new pad is everything with this piece except the pad inside is made in Italy and according to the standards of European standard. Even the cloth is a European standard press. And we have put everything directly. We are proud to put our name in it, and as you can see, it carries the Keshe Foundation SSI Institute with the logo on it. So the structure, we are getting better now that number of factories are going to come into production, that everything is made to not just to look right, but to work right, and the instruction to go with it the right way. So this is what we promised you. These pads now have come into the market. You can order it from the Keshe Foundation website. Everything is manufactured totally from base to zero, except the pad on that section in Italy. So we've gone through the extent to certify it, and that we know that there is no problems with it. And in due course, in the next few weeks and months, we are introducing 20 new products into the range of the Keshe Foundation, starting from next couple of weeks. There is something which I put my attention to the Chinese supporters of the Keshe Foundation in China. As you are aware, Shandong and other teaching centers, which is about 20 of them now, we realized, we understood in a common communication in the past couple of days, there are 20 different teaching organizations in China of the Keshe Foundation. Groups of them. And groups like Shenzhen and the others, which we will release later on, we have given them a permission for 2 of them to start producing only systems, learning systems for China only, to support their structure and their work. Which means if you're Chinese, you can go on the Keshe Foundation Shenzhen and buy some of the things, training equipment systems they produce for China. They will not be exported out of China. This is part of the agreement which they are given the permission to. So if you're Chinese, you can support the Keshe Foundation China group in China and in that process buy the materials which is only in Chinese. They have no certification to come out of China, so but they're applicable and they can produce it in China. And in the coming time, when we can get the materials certified, they'll be produced through and sale on the Keshe Foundation website. So for the Keshe Foundation Chinese, the Shenzhen group has materials which will be distributed only in China for the Chinese teaching. So if you need any, just get in touch with them and they can, support you with all sorts of materials and support the center financially in running their position. As I said, our commitment to the Chinese Keshe Foundation is 100%, and in every shape or form we can help or to allow the promotion of the teaching in China, we will do so. Any other news? Anything else you have for us?
There is from Peter. Let me see if I can show this. I have to do things a little bit differently. Just let me bring it up here. Okay, I need to do something in order to make that happen. It was a MagGrav, again, a testimonial about energy savings with the MagGrav. Maybe we'll save that until next time, until I can get it lined up, unless I can get it lined up here in the next few minutes. The other testimonials go on for other things if we want to read more of those.
No. Is there any questions? Does anybody have any?
Okay.
Because in questions we teach now is
Right.
not targeted, so we can cover a lot of people's questions, and at the same time teaching we learn more.
Here's one that many people have asked, and what Francois Fleabot is bringing up right now. He says, why can't we use the patch across the spine versus the magnetic pad that is made to cross the spine when you use it? So he's saying, I guess, just to clarify for people, he means the pain patch versus the magnetic pain pad that you just showed there.
The pads are made of matter state. The patches you produce is of the GANS state. It's totally different interaction. It's totally different interaction. It's totally different energy level. The GANS is a matter state, the GANS is a plasma state interaction, and the pads are plasma created on the matter level, and they're totally different, and that's why they work different way. You can interfere with the neural system if you match off the same and you find a match of the same. In many cases, it could be advantageous, but in many cases, we prefer not to because we don't know the interaction directly. You always use your plasma away from your spine. In the teaching of last week, I explained this. When you use we saw the pictures of people, when you use the vertical system, you know that the plasma from one system crosses to the other. So you always use the back, the spine, from the direction which is going away, which means you don't bring anything from composite mixture of the intestine into the neural system. You always work out of. This is the way I always worked. Maybe you come up with different solution. Maybe you can show a different way. But when you go out this way, there is not much disease that you carry from neural system into the organs. But if you go the other way, you carry the misfunctioning through the intestines into the neural system, which is the back in the nerve system. This is the way I always looked at it, and to me is essential to be that way. So you got to understand, when you deal with the GANs, it's different than when you do the matter state. The belts are matter state plasma condition created. The GANs are plasma state plasma strength condition. It's totally different. There is a limitation on the matter state. There is no limitation on the GANs state. Try to understand the principle behind it. Then it's not just because I say, you understand the interaction of the fields are totally different.
Yes, I have a question.
Who's that one?
My name is Flint. I'm in Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
What do you recommend for usage of these new pain pads and or patches and pens on someone that has a pacemaker?
No, do not use.
Even if it's like on a knee?
Preferably not near your system if it is near your pacemaker.
Because I was thinking of using it on like my mom who has problems with her knees.
That should be no problem. Do not bring it near the what they call upper part of the body where your pacemaker is.
Thank you very much.
Any other question? No question.
I'm sure we can bring some questions up here. It's just a matter of getting the viewers. And if you're a viewer and have a question, then I can promote you to a panelist, and you'll have an opportunity to speak. Anyone who's a panelist now can ask a question of Mr. Kesh if you like.
We have a Chinese doctor in the background who lives, I think, in Norway, who is a listener, and he wanted to explain to us in what I raised the question on last Thursday about the problems with the nerve cut. We asked him to come in today or Thursday. If he's here, he can raise his hand, or he will be on us on Thursday. No? Okay, no problem.
Okay, in the meantime, there is a question from Ilya, who asked, can the helmet be used for gum regrowth?
Nope.
No, an absolute no on that one. Okay.
Absolutely no on that one. For growing gums and what do you call it, bone structure, cheekbone, we are not going in the tooth growth, no way. Not yet, we're not ready for it. But for the bone, cheekbone, and gum growth, in some systems can be used. We have a very limited knowledge on this. We've done successful tests, but there is nothing 100% that we can tell you what to do. But you can allow a lot of people, you lose their cheekbone or the gum in a way. You can use certain type of what do you call the GANs in a specific way that you can place it in the gum. It has to be covered that it doesn't interact with your body, and you have to put one outside and one inside. That you create a circulation of the fields, and in some cases, that circulation of the fields allows regrowth. There is no certainty to it, there is no limitation to it, but we've seen some results in that direction.
Okay, Mr. Kesh, you've got Boris here who mentioned earlier that he wants to comment. He has a nice healing experience with my daughter. She healed herself with the stacker. Maybe Boris can speak. Let me see. I'll have to promote him to panelist here.
You can use the stackers for a lot of healing process. A lot, not the healing, but I call it processing your body. You can use them because they are literally a processing machine. I explained this a few teachings before, that the field which is above the units is huge, but you have to know how to harvest it. Carry on.
Yeah, Boris, I'll unmute you, see if you can speak there. I'm trying to unmute you. Not unmuting. Boris, if you can unmute yourself, because we can't hear you yet. You can do that on the bottom left part of your Zoom meeting window. I'm still not able to unmute Boris right now, so I'm not sure what's going on there. You can try, Boris, to... Oh, there it goes. Hello?
Okay.
I can hear you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Mr. Kesh. So I have a very nice story with my child, a girl from 10 years old. And Saturday night, we went to bed, and she started to cry about headache and pain in the stomach. And we tried to find out what to make about, if we use homeopathic or something. And then she asked me if she could use the stacker to healing, because she saw me sitting there and playing with my hands around the stacker. So she tried already 2 times. The first time she just put the hands and she took it away very rapidly, and it's very strong. And then she stopped. And then one time she sat down and played 10 minutes about. And this night, I told her, oh, you can try it. Why not? And she went up and she sit on the table and put the hands around the stacker. And I told her, give energy to the stacker. Told him that you want to give energy for peace in the world, perhaps. So she was there sitting some 20 seconds. And she told that her left hand is feeling like, how to tell that? It's like ants, you know? And you feel like ants in the hand. And some half a minute later, she told, now I don't feel anymore the left hand. I feel the right hand. And I told her, oh, the left hand you was giving energy to the stacker. Your right hand now is receiving energy. So then she told me that she is listening somebody talking to her in her head. She told me it's not like somebody really talking, it's a voice in the head. So I asked her, but what the voice is talking to you? And first she said, I cannot understand very well. I will try again. And she tried again, and then come out that when she tried again, she feel the finger, a pointing finger on the right hand, very strong energy. So he told me, it's very strange. My right hand, it's not the same feeling anymore. The energy is all in one finger. And then uh, she could listen the voice again and understand that instead a point to the head in Portuguese. Sure. And so she asked me, but where? I told her, try on the third eye, perhaps. So she put the finger on the third eye, and in 50 seconds the headache was gone, and in 30 seconds all was gone. And she was very happy and pulled around and wouldn't sleep, and we talked about at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that was very nice for me. I tried to conversate with the sacrifice a lot of time, and she sit down and make it the first time. It was a nice experience. And I have one question about the CO2 gas water that we can use for healing and with radioactivity and metals in our body. But the question is, what's the dose of this? Do you just put some little in a cup of water, or do you drink a water only of water of CO2? Or do everybody already have some experience about the dose for this thing? Decontaminate the body from heavy metals. Because I live in a very dirty environment here in São Paulo. It's a 20 million city with a lot of cars. Hello?
Yes, listening. Any comment from anyone?
Well, we do have that test from the lab mice that were administered the CO2. I can put that up briefly, maybe. That is one of the tests that were done. So,
as we said always, that is stands for, as we full understanding. Your body only takes what it needs at the time when it needs it. This ant feeling which you spoke about, we call it in Flemish kribbel krabbel. And this is one of the first signs when the neural system adjusts themselves. They reactivate themselves. We see this with a lot of people with MS, people with ALS, people with fibromyalgia. That's when they used to use the cups of the water and air I used to make them. One of the first things in the first couple of weeks they complained about was, it's like ants moving through my body. We call it kribbel krabbel. Means there has been a neuro, what do you call it, correction. It's not that it was there. It's the reason for it is usually it's connected somehow with the psychological, physical interaction. We see it with 100% with all these psychosomatic conditions like MS, ALS, and as I said, anything to do with that kind. They always speak about ants moving. This is the reconnection of the neural system. It's a small pulses of energy which comes to reconnect or establish line in a certain point in the body. And it's usually the pain points. And then you find out the pain disappears. It's like literally a version of a pen. You create an area where the total nervous system interacts with the body. This, the minute you said it's like ants, it just brings back all the cases we've done. So there has been a mixed connection, or sometimes it's like a pain inflammation in the hand, and that's what you feel. It's the way you pass the energy to the head. Is this whatever has been the pain in the hand? What will be interesting, which side of the head was the pain? Can you explain to us? Was it, where was she complaining of the pain in the head?
She had pain in the forehead.
In the forehead.
The mid, she said.
Okay. So what is important for you, or for us to learn, if you can ask her and let us know later on, is was or did something went wrong in the past 7 days with her psychologically, which had to do with her hand?
I think there is something. I was asking her because she was telling me that she has a proof in school this week. So I was wondering about that. That this was a nervous about this proof.
What is crew?
A test in the school.
Ah.
And mathematics and that stuff.
No, but what we see is usually to do with, this is the pain with the, whenever you see a pain in a physical and emotional part at the same time, which happens quite often, is you got to find out what you've done to you wrong, or been wrong done to you, that it is so strong that it manifests itself immediately in a physical pain, but it's got the emotion in it.
Yeah.
So you got to, we got to analyze in what it came and how it came and what was the reason for it. But majority of the time is when we cannot handle something, which especially, for example, is done to the right hand, something you don't want to touch, something you want not to be associated with. So it creates a pain, because when you have a pain, you can't do it. We are very special animals. We create our own pains for ourselves not to do what emotionally we don't want to do. This is a very strange behavior of a human race. We create, it's like when I start limping, I create a condition for me to limp that I don't want to go for a run. You see that with a lot of children. Huh? I have a pain, I can't go. And the next minute they get up and go. But they're actually in pain. If you take a measurement, they are, because the emotion shows the indication of the pain, physical pain, that they actually feel it. So it's very, very common in the children, this process. And we do it, we become perfect at it in adulthood. And then, as we always say, I've got a headache. Where does the headache come from? Because having a headache, I cannot handle physically something. We've done a lot of work on this because psychosomatic, psychological problems in the space is one of the biggest problems. It's the biggest health issue. As you know, even being in public, being alone is one of the biggest psychological pressures, especially if there is a constant continuity noise of a given constant strength. This is well studied, especially about the dentist. As you know, the highest rate of suicide in the world of medicine is with the dentists. They make a very good money, but they live a very miserable life because of this condition of being so close to people's pain. That's the only thing they deal with. And then a constant noise and a constant repetition of being on their own. They're in their own world. They just automatically work. because it's a little hole, it's all the same and same tooth, and it can't be much different one to another. When you deal with the large numbers, it's slightly different things. So they become very, very isolated, and they create the highest rate of suicide in more or less any profession, the dentists. And this singleness in space will be one of the biggest problems, and this is why we do so a lot of development in psychosomatic, especially in psychological pattern. To become selectively Alzheimer's. We don't want to remember about the home, so we totally forget about the home because we know we're never going to go back to it.
Mr. Kesh, this ties in with the question that someone asked, Oliver asked, who wanted to know the best way to help someone with severe hypochondria. Hypochondria is an abnormal anxiety about one's health, especially with an unwarranted fear that one has a serious disease. So it's worried about having disease, but having no physical symptoms, essentially. And they're wondering, is a pain pad or a pain pen able to help? And any information around that is appreciated. So it seems like you're answering that question now.
You got to look what are the conditions, psychological conditions for these kind of manifestations of pain. The only thing is emotionally being weak, which then allows the physicality to take what it likes to, and vice versa. So the only thing you can do with these kind of conditions is to strengthen the emotional part first, which means you don't need a CO2 water to drink. You need a CO2 with a zinc mixture in a, like a, what I call like a cigarette, that you can inhale from. You feed the energy and the emotion. You don't need much drinking of CO2 or patch. You need to breathe the air of the composition inside you, or patch or two lungs. You have to find a balance between the two lungs, find out which lung is operating time, and switch over. There's no use putting a patch on the side of the lung which is not operating lung at that time. As you know, your lungs work roughly about 1 hour each and switches over to the other lung. Even your nostrils work that way, even though you breathe. You breathe through one nostril in conjunction with the lung, and then both lungs goes up, but in fact, more effective is one lung than the other because that's its time of operation. So you have to find out these kind of things. Panic attack and anxiety comes from the lack of strength in the emotion. And by now you should have learned CO2 is not much good. Lack of emotion is lack of energy. Energy is connected with CH3. Emotion is connected with zinc oxide. So for the cases like this, you need to make a system which mainly, most probably two systems, one with CH3 and a zinc oxide that they can breathe, and one CH3 with zinc oxide and a CO2, and they can connect the whole thing together. You're dealing with different strength possibilities. You can make a patch, put it around the cup, close the cup, and put a straw and breathe very slowly through the straw. This is how you handle these cases. It's the emotion which is suffering, not the physicality. It's fear, anxiety, and then it can show itself as other physical behavior, which shows this is what I am feeling, or is not actually a physical interaction, it's the manifestation of the emotion in physicality. It's a totally different proposition, totally different program. So people with this kind of thing, you make a patch with CO2, CH3, and zinc oxide, and you make a patch with CO2 and zinc oxide. Sorry, CH3 and zinc oxide. CH gives you the energy. The zinc oxide conditions to the emotion. So you have the whole process together. And then in that process, the energy of the zinc, which is emotionally, which is the strength of the emotion of the body of the man, which is stronger than the, what I call the amino acid, because emotion is stronger than the, on the amino acid emotional side than the physical side, then you handle these cases this way. You got to make a cup, or what I used to do, you got to make a, like a breathing system. I showed it last week, but my breathing system is a huge cup with a huge internal zinc composition of the fields. And the, what do you call it? You have to be able to support only the lungs. Whenever you have emotional base, what do you call it, conditions, you only work through the lung. You don't need to feed the physicality. Physicality doesn't need it. But then you have to know what you are feeding in that process. And then you find out you have a big, big problem. The biggest problem with these kind of psychological problems, I've said before, is the attention seeking. You find out the person will walk away, will not suffer from any more what they were discussing or what they were suffering, they said, from. Now they find themselves correct, but they say they don't get any more attention. So now they, what we call in English language, they fake they have the problem to get the attention. Because in that process of illness, they received a lot of attention, and that attention was subconsciously feeding the disease. This is what a lot of people don't understand. And if you tell them, say, you think I'm crazy, I do this to get attention? Yes, you do. Because you found out with attention, you're important. You confirm your own existence. So you help them, they'll come out of it. With the processes like this, takes 3 to 6 months. If you do it very nicely, very correctly, it should happen with less than 30 days. But then you have the attention side, which is more and more difficult because it doesn't exist. They laugh with you, or they laugh with somebody else, and the minute you come in, they're sick. Because why? You are the source of the energy they become sucker to. Very careful with these things. I have become over years very fully aware of these kind of operations. And when we used to process these things, they accuse you of your system doesn't work, you're a crook, but in fact, when you catch them, you never see them again. They never come back because you show them what actually the condition is, and they see the hand is open, and they walk off. We've seen a lot of things, a lot of cases like this. So you have to understand, when you do a case like this, or when you try to help somebody like this, on the outset, before you start taking the process, you explain to them, my love for you, my attention for you, my respect for you will not change. When you're better, when you feel good, I have more love to give you. It's you now become part of the equation. It's you, without wanting it, in offering your help, have to give a solution that they gradually walk away from it. Because the pain will not be there. The anxiety, which partially became part of the attention sinking, will not be there, but they pretend it. We've seen this in many, I can show you recordings of it. I can show you large recording of this. Recovery, but finding losing the attention, and then doing everything to get the attention. That it always happens with the psychiatric or psychological conditions. So when you try to say, I can help, you have to understand the whole process. It's not just a patch. It's the confirmation of what is to come and how you have to stop it before it starts. And it's not just once. It has to be reconfirmed that you don't need to do to get attention. Say, I'm not attention seeking, it's just you're in mind. I said, okay, no problem. But when it goes again, do you have a pain? What is the problem? Then you find out there is no problem. We've had case where the gentleman, after about 3 months, 6 months, had no what we call Parkinson, no Alzheimer's. But it was good to be, because when the wife went out to the next door neighbor, the guy comes, gets up and serves himself a tea and everything else. And then the minute she comes back, he cannot work and he's shaking like mad. Can you do my shoes? And can you do this? I want to do this. And then one day the wife, just going across to the neighbors, happened to look inside. She's out of the door and he's making a cup of tea for himself. She knocks on the door and says, it's over, you can stop abusing. We've seen a lot of these things. These CO2, CH3, zinc oxide are one of the most powerful systems in the hand of psychologists if they understand what they have, and how they have to use it. But have to understand the usage of it needs a confirmation of fulfillment why the disease or the disorder or reprocessing started from the beginning. We have had a case, a girl, highly educated, in 35 years old, with long years of epilepsy attack. The father, being a man of medicine, he tried everything. He's a medical man. When she was brought to us, in less than 4 months, the epilepsy, all the medicine literally came to an end. And after a few months, I received one of the most nastiest emails I've ever received from a doctor. You are waste of time. After 4 months, 5 months, it's back again. I thought you solved the problem, but it seems nothing. I thought you can do the medical application, you are safe and everything else. I said, no problem, I take the insult, but can I see the girl, please? She's a highly educated master's. She's got just doing her PhD. She comes with the father and the mother, and then we found out the epileptic attacks happens exactly. Would you like to give me the screen? I'll write it to you, then you understand how correct it is. Can you let me share the screen? How do I share this? Pardon? It's that one in the corner. Okay. What happened? Yeah, I want to pour. What happened to me? Is that the one? Okay. What happened? Very strange. I said to the father and the mother being a scientist too, I said, I have no problem, but can you give me a timetable? I want you to go and come back in 4 or 6 weeks time, and every time you had an epileptic attack, write it down. And I want to know what you've done 24 hours before, which triggered the epileptic attack. She had this epileptic attack from age of 5. So at 35, 37, being highly educated, this was a normal thing because she was on a lot of dopamine and everything else which they give to these people. But they didn't show any sign. That's why we stopped the process, because she recovered fully. And I said, okay, I want to understand. She made the timetable. I still have the timetable. We publish it because this is very important to understand how people who recover with this technology, then they claim false claim because they have a problem. Attacks came very nicely. The timetable she made it was her handwriting on her book because her father had to bring it. He's a very well-known physician. Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and usually any holiday. Doesn't matter if holiday was a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and strange enough, is 10:20, 10:21, and the other one is 9:50, for example. I said, excuse me, can I ask you a question? Yes. You don't have an attack during any time. I had an attack like in the middle of the week, somewhere here. I said to the father as a doctor, I said, would you like to read the room? He said, why? He said, this is something I have to discuss with your daughter and the mother. The mother being a scientist. She said, why not? He got very offended. And I said to the daughter, I said, excuse me, madam, you are a scientist. I respect you highly. And your daughter is a highly educated girl. Do you have a problem with your boyfriend or your husband? She said, why? I said, who took all these readings? He said, I told my boyfriend and he wrote it down. I said, I'm going to ask you a question. Was it the time when he was asking if you can make love to you at that time? She said, yes. I said, has your epileptic attack become, sorry, I've got a headache, darling? She had no answer. She had no answer. Because these systems are so effective. I called the father in. I said, the father, I cannot discuss. Your wife and daughter have to tell you. My system worked. And the mother said, she's correct, he's correct. Then the father broke down and said, the boyfriend is sleeping around and she doesn't want to get diseased. So she finds this as a way because she knows he's not living. And the problem is, he's been to me telling me I get sexual diseases out of the toilet at work. Somebody's contaminated. I said, then the whole world should be contaminated. You have to understand the complexity of the psychosomatic diseases which people use to hide their emotions or their fears. So when you start such a process, these technologies are 100% proof. I leave a lot of cases I do not follow because I could see I can spend years. They come to me to get attention, to take energy from me, for them to confirm it's another doctor, I failed. So when you deal with any kind of psychological, psychosomatic, understand the reason behind, and then is not understanding it, is understanding it and making it CO2 is 5% of the job. The other 95% is to give surety that there is no changes in the feeling. This is the problem. This is where the present psychological processes fail and tablets and injections has taken over because the world of science has failed to understand the other side of the equation, which is I stay ill as long as I can get attention. And a lot of people, to them, to go to a doctor for 5 minutes, they're worth the whole world to be sick for. Because that 5 minutes, the doctor is theirs. And they don't get that chance anywhere in their private life. We've seen this recently with the people who we gave a platform in these teachings. People who have no competence and they have nothing. And then when they come here, we give them platform, they suddenly lose themselves, they become important. And then everybody else is crazy because now I've had the 10 minutes or half an hour presentation on the care, because this justifies their behavior. So this is what we see. And then they take over, everybody else is wrong because they cannot handle such immense attention and understanding. And then they become, this is what, in so many ways, the psychological part of these teachings is about. You watch how many people we bring here. No institute, no organization gives a platform for people, common man on the street, to come and explain the scientific, whatever it could be. And a lot of people can't handle that attention. They go two ways. They disappear, or in getting the attention, they become totally overwhelmed by it and they take over their life. And then everybody else is wrong because they're right. And we see a lot of them. In the past 2 years, 3 years, look at the number of people we have given a platform to be correct, that they can share knowledge. And you see a few have fallen off the barrel because they cannot handle it. Because in their life, nobody has given them that kind of attention. They've always been subordinate. Being equal for them is something is not done, and then it's too much for them to handle. They have to destroy the man who gives them a platform to be something. And we've seen the people who make the benefit of it, like Alex, Benjamin, and the rest, and they make a change for the nation. But those who can't, they go to their own self-destruction. Psychological control has to be that I confirm your existence. This is why every time anybody presents something new, I always thank them for the knowledge they share, because that's the acknowledgement of existence of life work. That's all majority of the life depends on. Understanding that every man, position, and work has its own value of existence. So next time when you speak about depression, you speak about Alzheimer's, you speak about this kind of thing, first, making a system to be appropriate for them is 5% of the job. The other 95 is the confirmation of the position in loving you has not changed. In what you need to take from me, from attention, has not changed. Then you find out the 5% more perfect. And they say, yes, the technology works. It fails on because you forget the most important part. I'm sick, I show anxiety, and by accident or whatever, I learn through that, I get attention. You give me something which balances this 95%, I let go. Any other question?
Yes, Mr. Kesh, we have Heather here who would like to show, she has a pain patch instruction sheet she'd like to show to get input on. Says she wants to get input on it before she sends it to her friends. She's got 10 research kits that she's sending off to get input on to her guinea pig friends, she says. So maybe we can get her to say something about that. Let's see if we can get that lined up. Heather, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi. Affectionately, I call them guinea pigs. It's just that when I went to that conference and had my impromptu in-service that day with some of the materials I brought with me to share the GANs mostly and the patches and some of my nano pins, I got so much interest that we decided to do a little study in our group. So I'm interested in your input, Kesha, as to kind of some of the things to further study with the health patches. And also, I thought I would put together a little instruction sheet just with some general information from my understanding from listening to you talk these last few months. So I will share my screen with Word here. And can you answer that? Mother, have to give that to my secretary. Okay, is that sharing there?
Yes, we can see it there. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to bring it up in the screen a little bit more. Maybe I can make it a full screen more. Okay, is that better? So I was showing them how to use the patches. And my concept is like a sandwich, right? So you have the two pieces of bread with the zinc oxide pads, and you choose one of the other ones to put in the middle. Like either the copper oxide or the CH3 to put in the middle of that sandwich. So there's the picture of the sandwich and the fields around it, and some general information that I've put together from listening to the different talks. I tried to come up with a picture of, kind of the leg, for example, putting a patch on the knee, and kind of my concept of what that field looks like around the patch, letting everything come in that wants to come in and letting everything leave that needs to leave to restore balance to that system. And then down here it says, choose what to put in for the third layer of your sandwich. And I put some real general information because I plan to go back into more of the talks and what you said today, obviously. Just as I was coming in, I noticed you were giving more information on the different ganses and, what their fields tend to do and how they interact. So, basically I made the cheese the CH3, since it's kind of orange. And that would be, the most commonly used middle layer is what I put between these two pieces of bread. And then the lettuce would be the copper oxide GANS pad because it's kind of green, right? So, they could put that in their sandwich. And we also have ocean GANS, which my friends just love that. These are I consider them multidimensionally aware humans. They see energies, they feel things, they know exactly what's going on with their body when they pick up something or come in contact with the field. So I think they're a beautiful set of people to give me feedback. So, and then I incorporated what you had said last week about the spine because I didn't remember that from previously or find that previously, just some guidelines not to put it on the center of the spine, but yes, you can put it either on each side or one in the front and the back. And then I posted this on the Golden Age of GANS and asked for input, so I'll look back on that and see who's given me some. I've already incorporated some of the input that people have given me, and how long to wear it, some ideas. I think I'm going to make this application idea and testimonial page another whole page of this because there's so many possibilities. And this is a picture of, using a patch on each side of the limb and kind of creating that little double, I call it a vestes Pisces situation there over the joint. And then I put a few things about my own experiments and then the links to the testimonial pages. And of course, there's always that medical disclaimer at the bottom that says, this is not saying that this is going to do anything, use your own discernment. And then I always put at the bottom, above all, people should be aware that they can do this without any of the patches or anything else. This is a permission slip that allows them to get to that point, but certainly facilitates it for sure. So.
Very nicely presented. It shows human body very well. They say your army marches on your stomach, your patients are the same, they understand through their belly. So
I'm a physical therapist, so I've been playing with bodies for about a quarter of a century now. It's very interesting to me. I've studied all sides of the fence of the naturopathic and the homeopathic and the medical and the energy medicine and all of that, trying to put it together.
thank you very much. It'll be nice if we could share this on the what do you call it, the blueprint that people can see or understand if you want to speak to Renan.
Okay. Well, I didn't think it was ready for that stage yet. This is kind of still my draft copy yet.
When you finish making your sandwich and the coffee with it, then you can let him have it. So it is very nice to put. Actually, this will be very nice for the Thomas on the children teaching. Because children understand and associate themselves with the food very easily. This will be very nice for the kids teaching channel, which is started with Thomas.
Oh, I'd love to be involved in the children teaching. I taught homeschool a lot, and I work pediatrics a lot, and I think that'd be fun. To break down information into teachable, for kids, because sometimes that's useful for us adults too. I go back and listen to your kids teaching a lot because I'm like, okay, Kesh, break it down for me so I can get this.
If you, I've seen a couple of preview videos made for teaching children, and this kind of thing fits into them perfectly. If you speak to Renan, part of the Renan groups is Douglas. And Douglas and Thomas are setting up the children channel. And it's so they are making like comics and children asking to put it in a very, very nice way, because teaching the children is one of our priority now to bring up. And we'll see how the organization fits to each other, but things like this, because children can associate with it very quickly.
Okay, beautiful.
Speak to Renan, and then he can guide you through Thomas and Douglas, who started the Kiddies channel.
Very good. I have one other page where I try to do like a full page kind of scheme of this CO2, CH3, just, as to which one is connected to the emotion, the mind, the physical. And I'd like your input on that right quick, if we can.
Have a go. We'll see.
Okay. My share screen went away, and I'm trying to see how to bring that back.
Yeah, there we can see it.
Oh, you can. Okay. So, yeah, so I used Renan's diagram, and I tried to put over it my little, what I've been working on the last several months about, just really general. I know there's a lot of overlap because this is so not linear, and it has more to do with the fields than any words or lines could ever describe. But is that correct as far as the CO2, kind of its connection and the physiology? I can make it bigger. That's useful.
A little bigger. I don't understand. Just a little bit bigger, please.
Okay, let me find my Zoom. Let's see if that's too much. Okay, yeah, that section
Just
right in here. That's the part.
It says CO2, NCCO, CO, physical body, muscle, nervous system, emotional mind. This emotional mind has to have you put a zinc to it. But that should be when you have it, you have to separate the emotion and connection. CO2 is a connection. Zinc oxide is emotion. You need another. You have to separate this here. This emotion. Energy. That's okay, but this has to be separated, but you need a zinc in there. Zinc is one of the main part of it.
It has its own box, okay?
Yeah.
And what I don't have on there under the CH3 is the iron oxide that comes with the CH3. Is that just kind of one subject, or
you don't usually? Yeah, it's part of it. It's built into it. Because we usually see CH3 in the condition of iron, but if you don't create oxidization of iron, you can literally run without iron in it.
Ah, okay. And what would be in the box for the ocean GANs, or is that just?
I don't touch ocean tanks. You can do whatever you like with it.
But they love it. But they
Yes,
love
they
it.
love it, but what depends which ocean and when you took it from where. And what do you call it? The lake, is it contaminated or not? Is it exposed of the energy? That's what we discussed before.
So be mindful of where it's collected for sure. I'm wondering if there's something we can do to purify it before we make it into GANs. Like maybe we can purify it with CO2 first.
Then you have understood the secret of filtration of every element on this planet. You're a genius.
Well, you're using all these things to decontaminate radioactivity. I would think that there would be a process that we could.
Where did we collect it in the GANs? Huh?
Didn't understand your question.
Where do we collect all the contamination within the GANs material? Now you understand. All the material is mixed in that structure.
And there's not a way to separate it.
Unless you know every single element in this world, how to separate it, yes.
Well, no.
This is how it works. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. The separation of elements in the future will be very easy, but at this moment of time, it's not that easy to do.
Okay, well, that's why it makes more sense to use these three that you've pulled out, the CO2, CO3, and the CH3.
You need to separate Z and O from it.
Yes, and the zinc.
Emotion, yeah.
Very good. Can I ask you quickly about the CuO2 formulation? I spent some time looking at that. Well, on the internet, they've got all this information, and is that the correct formula for what we're creating? It's Cu and then O with a 2?
Well, it's a combination of CuO and CuO2.
Okay.
It depends, and usually with a different color you can say the difference.
Because
the more green, the lighter green is CO2, the darker green is CO.
Right, because it shows the CuO when it's out separate, as far as a particle, it's black, sitting in a tray. And then they show the CuO2 as kind of a dark olive green with the copper carbonate and the copper hydroxide. Pardon?
That's the color in the matter state, not in the GANs state.
Oh, yeah.
If you go for a very high rapid separation, you get a black copper. We know when we produce gases in the factory and they use a very high voltage current separation, we get totally black copper. We get different color copper depending on the current we use. We discussed this before.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I was seeing the copper carbonate and the copper hydroxide were more the color of what I'm making, whereas the other ones were red, black, or dark green on the pictures. And I was like, no, we're not. I'm not making that. But now I'm hearing you that that's the GAN state, not the matter state. And I appreciate that shift because I'm attempting to make that shift in my mind anyways on a consciousness level, right? Is to look at energetics and plasma states and things like that versus our old way of doing things, which was 3D and matter state. It's time to move on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other things? Or we're reaching to the end of the day. As you see with the new teaching, when we let people ask questions or we put things on according to what gets submitted, we learn now more in depth. As I said before, we passed the time of making gases and how to make gases. Slowly, a lot of people are going through the transition now that they understand those cancers are just a tool to achieve what you want as an end entity product. Anything else?
Hello, this is Ekmar from Germany. I have a question concerning the pain pad. Is that okay?
Yes, please. If you teach us, we'll learn.
No, it's more a question because in the user guide they mention that you should use the pain pad not for breastfeeding women. And I would like to know why. Can I use it in the lower part of the body?
Yes, these are restrictions according to the health. You cannot interfere with something which a child uses. It's mainly to energize or change things in the breast, in the milk. This is just health regulatory points that we put on.
Okay, but for the lower part where the baby was born and when she feels some pain there, I can use it there.
Yes, there's no problem as far as we know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, Mr. Cash. My mother's using a breathing machine every night. She has to use it in order to sleep. Otherwise, she gets a really bad sleep and she wakes up every few hours. And what is the best way to include the GANs? Should I put the GANs around the breathing tube, like CO2 and CH3 GANs? Or how include it there?
Cannot comment until you know the actual whole structure and the case.
Okay.
Right. This is just picking something because you have to understand the full, then you understand what you have to do and how you have to do it. Sorry about that. But you need full cases understanding, then you can give advice.
It's fine, thanks. We'll find a solution.
Solution usually is you've got to see what it is and how. Look at the structure and understand why. Where does it come from? Is it through the physical damage or is it through old age? You will find out if you handle the making of the pads the right way. People after old age start absorbing more energy. They start living a totally different life. We've done this many times. Rejuvenation is one of the beauties of this technology. People who are on an oxygen mask and that kind of thing, they can walk away with no problem usually, if it's used the right way. We've done it many times. But you have to understand the reason and the source of it. Any other questions?
Okay, just a couple of quick questions, and Mr. Keshan, we'll let you go. There's a question on the live stream. The former CO2 capture kit made by a Chinese company had a convenient jug with a bottom drain and 6 sides to hold different plates. Will it be produced again?
No.
Will there be any CO2 kit offered by the Keshe Foundation?
We have found out this was a decision made by Ella. She's responsible for shipping and transportation. That the cost of shipping the boxes now in the factory in Italy was beyond the price of the box itself. So the only thing now we offer is the plates and everything else. You just gotta find yourself a plastic box. Everything is the kit. We have changed it to a kit and the plate. But the box you have to do. We can use any box in a way. We carry heavy space shipping, which does not justify the price.
Okay, thank you. And Fried asks, is the Keshe Foundation supporters network set up by the Keshe Foundation? Distributors claim to represent countries and continents. Would that not be the task of the national Keshe Foundations?
What is it? Can you repeat?
It says, is the Keshe Foundation supporters network set up by Keshe Foundation? Distributors claim to represent countries and continents. would that not be the task of the national cash foundations?
Distributors are only for the selling of the product, nothing else. And in the coming weeks, we have started the first one here in Italy. We are changing the separation of the distributions from sales offices. In each country, we send off a sale operation. And this is to do that the factories stay manufacturers. They got nothing to do with the sale, and the sale office just handles the sale of the goods of the cash foundation across the world, not only the country they manufacture the goods for. And distributors have nothing to do with what they call any other part of the foundation work. In the next couple of months, we're changing the whole structure. Once we are waiting, I was told again, I'll be ready and running the new, what do you call it, the e-commerce. Once we set up the e-commerce properly and then the factories start coming into operation, the other products, we will send every system we produce in each country directly to the governments for the governmental approval in the use in their country and stating their thing. So this goes back to retail, what they call the sale point, that they have to sell the technology, not the product to the nation. And the distributors are there to organize for distribution of the materials around the world. We are looking, let me explain to you, we are looking for a large number of salespeople and distribution for the sale of the goods across the world. The factories are coming up into production in the next months, and they all produce things. We don't want to be totally relying on the internet sale, but allowing the nationals or governments and the local people to know that there is such a product. So we have started this process in Italy, and now hopefully we go to Germany, United States, and Japan, and with the frontier on the medical side, what they call the supplements. And then we'll see what happens with us in other countries.
Okay, I think, are we done for today, Mr. Kesh, do you think?
I think if there's nothing.
There's probably a few more questions that people have, but they can wait till next workshop, I think.
Yes, but next on Thursday we will bring a new things which are there to be done, and we to the knowledge. The teaching now is very much, as I said, focused on the questions you ask. We teach when it's done in the direction, because the general teaching is more or less done, and we have another week, I think, of the 2 weeks of the teaching for us in the private side left, which is the completion of the second team of a group of knowledge seekers, which have completed the 1-year course by the end of next week, and they finish with us, and we carry over the what we call 3-year course on until January, and then again for next year. So if you have anything, and hopefully next Thursday, not this Thursday, we ask the knowledge seekers who finished the 1-year course to come and present themselves, anything they want, or if they added anything to their knowledge in the past years sitting in the classrooms.
Okay, Heather does ask, how does one join as a manufacturer? Is there one in the USA, especially for health?
Speak to Armin. Armin is responsible, and Mike Harris are responsible for setting up the structure in the United States.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you indeed. Thanks for today, and hopefully we'll see you on Thursday morning with some more understanding in addition to the knowledge. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Kesh.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, that's the end of the 12th International Knowledge Seekers Workshop of the Kesh Foundation Spaceship Institute for Tuesday, April 5th, 2016. And as always, thank you everybody for attending. Okay, I'll end the live. Okay, there we go. So, no, sorry, that's, I have to bring up the other one here just a minute. Okay, there we go. We'll do it this way then. Okay, so this is a folder, PDF, that talks about the test site description. Testing is done in a small house with very limited house wire grid. From the central grid connection meter housing, there's 2 wall sockets. Just a 2-meter standard house wire to each socket. And each socket has a 220 volt 10 amp fusing for a total of 2200 watts from each socket. Use one of these 2 sockets for test of the power unit. And it shows the setup there as he's outlined in the description. Okay, so after doing a 21-day conditioning with this setup, maybe the next step will be to do the same thing on the other wall socket. We'll have to ask advice from other users before this decision. From the wall socket, we connect to a simple volt amp watt meter. Then from there to the load sockets, 5 sockets on the input side of the power unit. So we see those 5 sockets here, and we see the 3 load sockets. The Swedish standard where you can connect any load plug 2 ways, 180 degrees turned, I see no way to determine any live plug for devices connected as load. So for this issue, we just make sure to record the orientation for any new load and make sure it will always be connected with that same orientation. Anytime you disconnect or connect a given load to the system. Okay, that's it for that PDF, and we can go back to, let's look at the updated video here. And here we see comments and facts in chronological order as the testing progresses. So he's got the dates, the added non-resistive load, the added the resistive load, the total load, and the watt meter from the grid and kilowatt hours as columns here. That's all the data up till April 2nd, and with notes for each step of the conditioning process. So he's been quite particular about what he puts on and how the load goes on for each day. We won't go through all the details, but we can go toward the end here. Well, we can see that, well, he does mention here this example of 81.5 kilowatt hours. Energy reduction is calculated based on the permanent load of 87 kilowatt hours. And seems like the energy savings kind of stays like 7% average these last 2 weeks. Did a little happy testing, mostly fun testing a certified tester likes to do. I used my second watt meter and connected it straight to the heat fan on the output side. It gave me 400 watts. Compared to the 428 watts we had as consumption for this fan. So it gives you also a 7% gain. Then I used the same meter and connected the heat fan to the off test fuse line. That also gives me 400 watts. So for anyone wanting to disprove the tech, the conclusion, of course, is no energy gain at all. For someone wanting to see the tech works, the conclusion is the heat fan got conditioned for less power consumption, also when connected to the off-test fuse line. I'm just testing. You choose yourself what to believe. I won't believe either way until testing is finished. And then in March 4th, he has a 9% meter reduction, a 7% energy meter reduction, and a 21% electric bill reduction. Shows watt usage 472, energy usage 74.5 kilowatt hours. So the energy reduction is calculated based on the permanent load of 137 kilowatt hours, and he makes a calculation of the 127 over the 137 to get 0.07. And the reduction based on the watt meter is similar formula. And the electric bill says the theoretical watt usage during February is 29 days of 518 watt load plus 1 day with an additional 1170 watt. 518 and 1170 watt is what we measured at the beginning of the testing as the watt consumptions of loads when connected to that off test phase, which is 388 kilowatt hours.
Mainly your supplier. But at night time, your meter on the wall, which comes from the electricity board, is your supplier. What we have seen from the test, he started the test at night. So in the first hour, I think he saw 12% something reduction. And in the first 12 hours, we saw around 20 plus reduction. But then when the data came in and the solar cells became supplier, the energy saving dropped to 7 to 8%. And this carries on about the same. Am I correct? Everyone is here. It's just about the same. And now what it does, the system is nano coating the solar cells at the moment. So you get a different reading nighttime when you get your supply, but your system now has found a way to feed. So we want to see how long will go before the whole solar cells are nano coated, and then what figures of production we see, because when this happens, is not just to see the reduction in the electricity bill, but is to see the increase in the solar cells supply into the grid during the daytime. Because you have records of past months, years, you've been putting electricity in the grid. Now that the plasma is nano coating your solar cells, now you can see if it becomes more efficient, if you're supplying more. So in a way, you're earning more money out of your system. You understand? This is what we got to look for. Yeah. So it's not just looking at the reduction at night, but seeing the increase in your supply into the grid as a solar, because you have a license. This when they sold you the cell, the panels, is for you to become a supplier. But now you're going to see if you were supplying, let's say, 3 kilowatt a day during the certain hours, if compared, because it's very hard to make a comparison because some days are not the same as last year, but you're going to see if your supply into the grid goes higher, which means now your nano coating becomes more efficient in the solar cells, so you earn more money with what you supply. So you become a more efficient supplier. So we're looking at two sides, not what the reduction you get, yeah, but if the day wattage supply has gone up, which compensates two ways. So not only you get a reduction, but you're getting more pay from the, what they call it, the electricity board for putting more energy in. This is a very good test because this gives us a very good opportunity to be able to make solar cells farms more efficient. Here in this site, we have a huge farm, solar cell farm just outside. So we can add to the system and see you produce more than you are. So these kind of things we see, this is exactly what we said from the beginning, but as I said, the proof of the pudding is in eating it, and now we see the results are coming back. The pudding is very delicious. If you're paying €1,000 per month electricity bill, and you save yourself €370, is not bad. Especially for some houses, even if you bring that to €1,000 a year electricity bill, 370 electricity bill is quite a bit. So it makes a difference. This is more or less what we've seen in line in Middle East in our testing in Abu Dhabi and new systems are coming up as we send more systems across the, what do you call it, mass production position. So it is those of people who went out to destroy the, what do you call it, the work of the magnet systems because it was beneficial to them. Now they've seen is exactly opposite what they were preaching. This is our job, to put the system in work, to put the system to show. It takes time to break through new technologies. In the past, it was one man, maybe he sold a few pieces here and there and disappeared. This time is the whole of the human race. We work as one team, we're putting it out. And don't forget, there are thousands and thousands of units made by people themselves, which we don't know. They build their own system in their houses. Housewives have built their own systems. In Africa, we know they're building their own systems every day. So this has two-way cut. This, a lot of people haven't realized. As we go into mass production, as we go into further mass production, as more people are more add to their system, the bill energy saving is one side of it. The other side of it is what we do not need to destroy. What we do not need, showing something else on the thing. What we do not need to actually build to destroy more, to have more energy. I did a calculation for a government very recently. If you put
goes 305, so he sees the reduction as 21%. And he has some speculations as to why there's a big difference between the electric bill and the watt meter calculations. He thinks that the plasma flow might be affecting the watt meter in some way, so the readings are not what is taken from the grid. And so on. He has a couple of suggestions or ideas about why there's a difference in that reduction. And moves on to March 20th. Let's go move along through this perhaps. There is some changes along the way. Let's look at the beginning of April. Okay, so April 2nd, he has a watt meter reduction of 12%, an electric bill reduction of 37%. And he talks about how that was shows how that was calculated. He says he concludes the boost from 21% to 37% savings is probably due to the 1320 watt load, which is now on the input. Really gets the benefit from the 518 watt load on the output. He speculates that running a full month with this load will get toward a 50% savings. He says it's pretty clear now the watt meter readings are not good for evaluating savings, just like the Kesh guy said from the beginning. The little smiley. And the next step, he says, we'll just connect the mag-grav to the second phase and get the nano coating going on in those wires. The watt meter is taken out of scope. It will just be the electric bill to monitor the savings. And that's the end of that commentary.
What he's done step by step is on the old manual. The new system, which is the second generation, you just connect the load up to 500 watts at your box, the blue system, and you connect a plug into the main, and that's all you need to do. And we have tested this in Emirates, and it works very, very fast and very fine. You start seeing reduction directly from the first day.
And then how quickly can you load it up with the full load after you start off with 500 for a couple of weeks?
You don't need, you load up with 500 to start the system, and after 30, 60 days, you bring your load down to 200 watts. You don't need to go any further. The system is what do you call it, self-setting. The new configuration, you don't need to add any more load or reduce any more load. To start with, you put a 500 watt on, and then after 30 days, 60 days, you reduce it to 150, 200 watt. But you set in the house and you start seeing the saving.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Just let me tell you something. We have confirmation from the Chinese group. The Chinese in the group in China has managed to achieve 80% reduction over the testing time. We just received the information this morning. So one of the groups in China running their system now achieved 80% reduction on the electricity bill. So as you let the system go further, it works more efficient and you use the system directly. You got to remember three things: that your power supply provides a DC with a balance on the plasma DC, not on a electron vibration DC. And you have the possibility of using the system as an adapter for any electric system, be it 210, 220, or 110, 120 voltage. The good thing is we're getting more and more people. In the coming week, next couple of weeks, the Keshe Foundation, from the sales point of view, will send the application form, a form to all the people who bought the system to give us an update, what they've seen, what reduction they've seen. So we start to piling in the information for actual bills of the houses, people who bought the units and installed the units in their houses. There's over 1,000 plus, which we can call upon to start gathering data. Then over 1,000 units, we look at the, what do you call, the data, the balance data. How much they saved in the first month, how much they saved the second month. At the moment, we are looking at a setup which Giovanni has done in his house. He's like many people at the moment with sunroof, what do you call it, solar cells on the roof as a power supply, because solar cells supply the energy during the daytime. It becomes you are people listening from every corner of this planet.
No knowledge has been dispersed so beautifully, so balanced across this planet ever. Maybe in the universe. You have the full potential of achieving everything in the universe. There is no need and there is no reason for man not to achieve. So, wherever you are, the way I taught you to make the coils double fall inside, you have continuous equal gravitational magnetic fields, and if you put CO2 on it, and you put zinc on it, you have connected the emotion of the man to it on a stable condition, and you'll find out you become a very peaceful man. Here, instead of having galaxies and universes and creating connection magnetically, we have used the matter state gravitational magnetic field strength to dominate and dictate the shape of the plasma. The nanotechnology, the nanomaterial which you have collectively developed in different ways, by caustic, by electric currents, by whatever, fire or whatever, has that advantage that the matter, the nano, and the plasma is all the same. So connection is very solid, it's very strong. The power of the plasma technology, the way we have thought, is beyond imagination of the man. Now you can create and control the plasma, which is the mother of the power of the universe. You are given the seed of the essence of the creation. The foundation does not belong to no one and is not made of one anymore. You are developing it, you are structuring it, and from today we will be still the same. We'll still develop the technology in different names, in different colors, in different nationalities which they do not exist. It is beautiful when we see the Christian, the Muslims, the Jews, and every other belief are working together to build up systems. We have already become one faith. We already have become one nation, and we already become one planet. You got to remember one thing. Dates is irrelevant. Today is the last day of the Christian calendar, or tomorrow is the beginning of another. One day is connected to another. We don't stop. We are working around the clock. The Keshe Foundation team is working irrespective of time, position, religion, country. And now we achieve what we set out for.
Sorry, Vince, are we going to play the second video as well? All right. Yes, thank you.
You're invited to partake in the creation of humanity's first Universal Community Council on April 21st and 22nd, 2016 in Dubai at the One Planet, One Nation, One Race Conference. World leaders and prominent business persons have been invited to attend. However, representatives of the council will be selected irrespective of language, race, creed, or position in life. The council will have many responsibilities. It will support the people of humanity and their governments. It will help bring balance across the globe and unite humanity for the benefit of all mankind. It will act as a bridge between humanity and the universal community. The cost of admission to the conference is €750, which includes one seat in the main conference room and 3-night stay in one of Dubai's prestigious hotels, 2 persons per room. Discount airfares are also available. The One Planet, One Nation, One Race Conference. You're invited. We hope to see you there.
Welcome, everyone, to the 12th International Cash Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Tuesday, April 5th, 2016. And once again, we're here with Mr. Kesh of the Kesh Foundation, and he'll be speaking on various issues that affect the international scene with the Kesh technology. And we have a couple of testimonials and other things to show as well. So we'll begin the show with Mr. Kesh as usual. I think he's available, and yeah, I see we're tuning into his channel there now, to his video. Can we hear you, Mr. Kesh? Hello.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, as usual, whenever and wherever you listen to these teachings. As is our tradition on Tuesdays, we start with application, usually of the health, but we listen to what other nationals and countries have developed for us to learn from. I know there is a couple of entries of what we've seen, especially about the MAGRA systems. And if we can show that first, please, and then we carry on. Do you have it available?
Yes. Yes, I've got the, well, let me put it up on the screen share here. Let's see. Okay, do it this way. Okay, this is a site regarding the Kesh home power unit testing in Sweden. I can read what it says here. As we can see, this page is dedicated published testing results done on the power home unit bought from the Kesh Foundation web shop. Delivery time is January 8th, 2016. First time connect was done 10th of January. Being lazy, I use this page within another project scope. So the many items you see here has nothing at all to do with Kesh, and we're all Swedish. For Kesh interest, just disregard that info. And it talks about how you have to download and so on through the stream. You need to download to disk first, he says, since his storage site doesn't have the capacity to do streaming. So basically, there's a link here for the PDF that we can have a look at, and there's a link for the starting up of the unit, and there's an updated link of it running at the bottom here. So maybe we can have a look at that PDF. Okay. Make sure we're sharing that correctly. Can you see that on the Zoom sharing okay? Or is that what? Yeah, just gonna, there it is.